The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is brought to you by Clinica Sierra Vista.
Welcome back to the 17 News at Sunrise podcast, where we share your news on your schedule.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
And good morning here at 5 a.m. Thanks for waking up with us. I'm Maddie Jansen alongside Alex Fisher.
This morning, the Sheriff's Office is investigating a shooting that left a man dead in South Bakersfield early yesterday morning. Deputies were called to McKee Road near South Union Avenue around 4 a.m. for a report of a shooting. When they arrived, they say they found a man who had been shot several times. Investigators say they believe the victim was involved in a fight with the suspect before the shooting. The Sheriff's Office did not release a description of a possible suspect.
Meantime, the Sheriff's Office opened another investigation after a man was found dead in Frazier Park early Saturday morning in the driveway of his own home. Deputies were called to the area of San Carlos and San Fernando trails at about 7 Saturday morning. When they arrived, they say they found the man with trauma to his upper body. Deputies are investigating this as a homicide. If you know anything, you're encouraged to call the Sheriff's Office at 861-3110 or the Secret Witness Hotline at 322-4040. And another body was found this weekend, this time off a road south of McFarland. Deputies were called to the area of South Garzoli Avenue and Whistler Road around 1:45 p.m. Saturday. When they arrived, they found a man who had been shot in the chest. Law enforcement has not released any other information about a suspect, and the coroner's office says it will identify the victim at a later date.
The Tulare County Sheriff's Office has arrested 2 men in the case of a man found dead in Tulare County 2 weeks ago. Now, this is the scene from an arrest in Delano related to the case. Deputies say the body of 58-year-old Douglas Klein was found in a Terra Bella orchard on October 15th. On Thursday, several law enforcement agencies, including Kern's Auto Theft Task Force, served search warrants in 5 addresses spread between Terra Bella, Early Mart, and Delano. Deputies arrested 23-year-old Jesus Manjarez and 38-year-old Dan Eli Perez that day and booked them into the Tulare County Jail for murder. Detectives also found 12 guns, a grenade launcher, and a stash of drugs. Law enforcement says the third suspect, identified as 24-year-old Jose Reyes, is still on the run.
From our 17 follow-up file now, a family gathered for a vigil to mourn a 26-year-old woman killed in a suspected DUI crash. Family and friends of Tori Arvizo held a vigil Friday at the site where she lost her life. The crash happened last Wednesday on Brundage Lane between I Street and South Chester Avenue. Arvizo was a passenger in the sedan. 7 others, including 4 children, were hurt in the crash. The crash remains under investigation.
Now there's some dangers on the road as a rock slide blocked part of Highway 178 overnight. Officers were called to the area of the 178 just east of the mouth of the canyon in Bakersfield for a report of a boulder partially falling onto a car at about 9:30 last night. CHP says the rocks were blocking westbound traffic lanes about 2 or 3 miles into the canyon. One person was reportedly hurt when the rocks came crashing down. The roadway has since been cleared.
Members of the local Sikh community gathered in southwest Bakersfield yesterday to celebrate the 552nd birthday of the religion's founder. Community members celebrated with food and hymns and even showed off traditional martial arts. Some also tied their turbans, a time-honored Sikh tradition, keeping the hair neat and clean. Event organizers say the celebration centered around this giant float.
It is our birth of our first guru, which is Guru Nanak Dev Ji. For their birth, we do a parade where our living God is currently our Bible. So what they do is it's just for people to have a chance to see the living God, and that's why it's taken around the streets, blessing the streets, blessing the community, and bringing happiness to everyone's houses.
The group wrapped up festivities with a community meal.
Hundreds of people commemorated lost loved ones yesterday at a Dia de los Muertos event at the Greenlawn Funeral Home. The event highlighting the city's strong Mexican and Spanish roots. 17's Marco Torres has more.
Greenlawn Funeral Home Southwest hosted its own fusion event of Dia de los Muertos and Halloween for kids and families from all across Bakersfield to enjoy. Candy, music, and children's laughter filled the cemetery. Graves were cleaned, families decorated them with photos and memorabilia of their loved ones. It was a true Dia de los Muertos celebration for the Bakersfield community.
It's a perfect event for families and young people to come and connect back to their traditions back at home.
We asked parents why this day is a special occasion to commemorate children who have passed away.
It's a traditional Mexican thing for Day of the Dead. So my daughter passed away this year, and she's buried here, and we came out to celebrate her here. So we just set up the altar and just put her the traditional flowers and just traditional Mexican stuff.
It's a celebration of life, celebration of his life, and in remembrance of my son, Jose Reese. Some of the things that you see are some of his favorite items. He'd love to have parties and drinking, of course, and just regular 25-year-olds, everyday things that they like.
While families celebrated their loved ones, kids were still able to have some Halloween fun by dressing up and getting candy throughout the day.
I'm very happy to see all these young kids that are, getting soaked into the culture of Dia de los Muertos and Halloween, of course. So I mean, this is something that I really love it, because I mean, it's just seeing everybody out here. It makes us see how great community we have here.
The Jimenez altar, as well as the other altars at the cemetery, will be entered into a competition where the top 3 will win prizes. The winners will be announced at the end of the event. From the Green Lawn Funeral Home Southwest, happy Halloween and Dia de los Muertos. Marco Torres, 17 News.
Over the next month, the Supreme Court will hear a series of cases which could fundamentally change abortion law in the U.S. Today, a restrictive new Texas anti-abortion law goes before the court. NBC's Chris Pallone has the latest.
Maddie, good morning. Today's arguments involve procedural issues in lawsuits against that Texas abortion law known as SB 8. They set the stage for a more direct challenge to abortion's constitutionality next month. Today, the Supreme Court is hearing arguments on the highly controversial new Texas law known as SB 8. It bans abortions after fetal heart activity is detected, usually around 6 weeks, before most women know they're pregnant. There's no exceptions for rape or incest, and the law allows anyone to sue people who help a woman get an abortion, from a doctor to an Uber driver.
We know that the Texas Heartbeat Act saves about 100 lives per day from abortion.
Advocacy groups and the Biden administration are challenging the law.
I have been, continue to be, a strong supporter of Roe v. Wade.
Texas's Republican Governor Greg Abbott signed the measure into law back in May, sparking protests around the country, with opponents calling it the harshest infringement on abortion rights since Roe v. Wade a half-century ago.
The question is whether an order blocking the state from doing anything to enforce SB 8 will also block private parties from enforcing SB 8, will also block copycat lawsuits by other anti-abortion advocates. And that's the tricky part here.
The Biden administration asked the Supreme Court to block enforcement of the law, but the court declined, instead fast-tracking today's oral arguments. 1 month from today, justices will hear arguments in a case that will more directly address whether abortion is constitutional. It's a challenge to a Mississippi law that bans the procedure after 15 weeks of pregnancy. At the Supreme Court, Chris Pallone, 17 News.
Actor Alec Baldwin has broken his silence about the deadly shooting of a cinematographer that took place on the Rust film set. He and his wife stopped on a road in Vermont on Saturday and spoke publicly about the shooting for the first time. Baldwin said that cinematographer Helena Hutchins was his friend. Investigators say they believe Baldwin's prop gun fired a single live round that killed Hutchins and wounded director Joel Souza on the film set in New Mexico last week.
I'm not allowed to make any comments because it's an ongoing investigation. I've been ordered by the Sheriff's Department in Santa Fe. I can't answer any questions about the investigation. I can't. It's an active investigation in terms of a woman dying. She was my friend. She was my friend. The day I arrived in Santa Fe to start shooting, I took her to dinner with Joel, the director. We were a very, well-oiled crew shooting a film together, and then this horrible event happened. Now, I've been told multiple times, don't make any comments about the ongoing investigation, and I can't.
Baldwin also said he is interested in discussions to limit the use of guns in movie productions. He said he stopped to talk to the press so that photographers would stop following his family. Authorities are still investigating the shooting. Bakersfield's Larry Zanoff knows what must be going through the minds of movie professionals still trying to process the film set tragedy. He works as a movie armor, the guy who procures, inspects, handles, and sometimes hands off prop guns on film sets. And Zanoff, who developed much of his expertise with firearms decades ago as a soldier in the Israeli army, says it is almost inconceivable that a gun containing a live round could have found its way onto the set of Rust, much less placed in the hands of an actor rehearsing a scene.
Is there any reason to have live cartridges on a television film set? The answer is no. Our own industry guidelines, safety bulletin number 1, clearly states that there is no reason to ever have live ammunition on set. Obviously, safety is the reason for that, and so that's the guideline that we're supposed to follow.
Zanoff, who said he sees no reason to remove prop guns from film sets as long as storage and handling protocols are strictly followed, still lives in Northeast Bakersfield. You can hear more from Zanoff's exclusive interview with 17's Robert Price on our website, kget.com.
NBC News is reporting House Democratic leaders are making plans to vote on the $1 trillion infrastructure bill and $1.75 trillion social spending bill tomorrow. Citing 3 familiar sources with the plan, NBC says lawmakers have been told to work on the bills over the weekend to get them ready for a vote. It's unclear if they can get all of the votes by tomorrow. Any final agreement will eventually need the support of Democratic Senators Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema, who forced President Biden to scale back his proposed $3.5 trillion social and environmental bill.
Starting today, a bank account boost could be coming for people living here in Kern County as another round of stimulus checks are issued. This is all part of the Golden State stimulus package. Most people who make less than $75,000 a year will receive between $600 and $1,100. Some payments have already gone out via direct deposit, but those waiting on checks here in Bakersfield should receive theirs before Thanksgiving. For the zip code mailing time frames, you can visit our website, kget.com.
Open enrollment has begun for Covered California health care coverage. Covered California is an independent part of the state government that provides access to physical and mental health care. This open enrollment period goes from now until January 31st and will cover your health care expenses for the 2022 year. For more information, visit coveredca.com.
Working in the spirit of the Golden Empire, this is 17 News at Sunrise.
The 17 News at Sunrise podcast is a production of KGET and Nexstar Media Group. For more on all of the headlines in today's show, head to kget.com.